From Thom Hartmann's Daily Take Substack. Oligarchs, Outlaws, and the End of Journalism. Reagan's Real Legacy in Trump's GOP. The CBS merger isn't a business deal. It's a pay-to-play scheme fueling America's slide into oligarchy. Published July 23rd, 2025. The following is a song inspired by this article.
They sold the ink, they sold the air for $1 billion billionaire's vacant stare. Once proud truths now softly fade to make room for the deals that Ellison made. CBS bowed Colbert's on ice while Trump cashes checks for his petty price. They call it news, but it's tribute paid to a felon king the oligarchs made. This is the end of journalism when power buys the press. The ghost of Reagan whispers still while truth gets laid to rest. The fourth estate's been auctioned off to gods in human skin. Welcome to the silence now. Let the propaganda begin. There were once 50 voices, now just 6 remain, and they echo the gospel of greed and gain. Antitrust laws lie in the dirt while democracy chokes in a branded shirt. Redstone smiles, her wallet wide as CBS slips to the fascist side, and the justice boys just look away. It's just another rigged up play. This is the end of journalism when power buys the press. The ghost of Reagan whispers still while truth gets laid to rest. The fourth estate's been auctioned off to gods in human skin. Welcome to the silence now. Let the propaganda begin. Hungary did it, Russia too, and now it's got that red, white, blue Project 2025 in hand. Trump's got the mic and he's got a plan. He'll purge the courts, he'll own the news, and we'll all forget what we could lose. But don't mistake this for a show. This is how dictators grow. This is the end of journalism when facts are just for sale, where silence rules and stories die beneath the richest veil. From Reagan's pen to Trump's grim grin, the free press lost its spin, and we're left screaming headlines into a world gone dim.
The CBS merger deal illustrates everything that's wrong with post-Reagan Revolution America. It's not just another corporate merger. It's a road sign on our accelerating march toward oligarchy, propaganda, and the collapse of honest media. We've watched one of the most important legacy broadcast platforms in America pay a $16 million bribe to our convicted felon president, reportedly offering him another $16 million worth of free airtime, and try to sell its entire operation to a billionaire with a God complex. It's the worst of the Reagan Revolution coming home to roost on our screens, in our homes, and in our civic life. Start with the $16 million payoff. Trump sued CBS and its parent company, Paramount, over a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, laughingly arguing that CBS's editing of the interview constituted unlawful election tampering. The lawsuit was instantly and widely regarded as frivolous, but instead of fighting it, CBS quietly settled for an astonishing $16 million. No trial, no discovery, just a big fat check. This isn't journalism. It's tribute. It's what oligarchs have done for centuries when they want to please the king. This should shock the conscience of any functioning democracy and has the rest of the world wondering about the health of ours. But in the GOP's America, where billionaires are gods and corporations are people, this is just Wednesday. Antitrust laws that were once enforced to keep our economy and our media diverse and competitive are now all but ignored. It wasn't always this way, as I lay out in The Hidden History of Monopolies, how big business destroyed the American dream. Before Reagan took office, the federal government blocked mergers that would have concentrated too much economic or political power. In 1890, Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act that said giant companies couldn't dominate markets simply because they had the financial muscle to buy up their smaller competitors and drive them out of business by dropping prices long enough to run them into bankruptcy. It was later augmented by the Clayton Antitrust Act of 1914 and the Seller-Koberger Act of 1950. The law was so rigorously enforced so the game of business could be played by all comers, not just the, quote, big boys, end quote, so that in 1960s, the Supreme Court barred the merger of Kidney and Buster Brown Shoes Company because the new combined company would control 5% of the shoe market. But then Reagan, in 1983, ordered the DOJ, SEC, and the FTC to basically stop forcing the Sherman Act, which is why today Nike, for example, controls about a fifth of the entire nation's shoe market. It's the same across industry after industry, from retail to grocery stores to railroads to computer software to social media to chip manufacturing to airlines to hotels and media. In the decades since Reagan and the GOP stabbed small businesses in the back, things have deteriorated badly. In 1983, there were about 50 companies that owned 90% of American media, controlling roughly 90% of what Americans see, hear, and read. As of today, it's 6. Comcast, Disney, News Corp, Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Paramount for now. That's not a free press. It's an oligopoly. And now, Larry Ellison, the 10th richest man in the world with a net worth of $150 billion, and his son are stepping in to consolidate even more control. Ellison already uses his wealth to push far-right political causes. He was the single largest funder of the right-wing PAC. Now he'll have one of the largest megaphones in America. This is what oligarchy looks like, courtesy of the Reagan Revolution, and most recently the corrupt Citizens United decision by 5 bought-off Republicans on the Supreme Court. An oligarch buys a media empire. A corrupt president extorts that empire for cash and airtime. The journalists there who once held power to account get fired. And now, Stephen Colbert, whose nightly monologue is one of the few mainstream platforms consistently skewering Trump and the GOP, is on the chopping block. So is the legendary 60 Minutes team. neutered to avoid offending Ellison's political pals, all to grease the wheels for a merger and keep Trump happy. Meanwhile, the average American gets nothing. No trustworthy journalism, no independent voices, no real debate, just more billionaire-driven narratives, more trunk hagiography, and more of the toxic sludge that passes for news in post-Reagan America. We've seen this movie before. In Hungary, Viktor Orban used state subsidies and friendly oligarchs to seize control of that nation's media. In Russia, Putin arrested or exiled journalists while his billionaire cronies bought up every independent outlet. Trump's already following the blueprint to do the same here through Project 2025. Purge career civil servants, seize control of the FCC, and turn the media into a mouthpiece for the regime. With CBS in the hands of Ellison and already making cash payments to Trump, we're more than halfway there. Make no mistake, this isn't about entertainment or even profits. It's about power. When the press becomes the property of the morbidly rich, and they wield it to defend their interests, as Jefferson and Adams warned, democracy becomes their plaything. Trump is running a campaign of vengeance against the media in particular, and CBS is handing him a gun. And the kicker? Sherry Redstone, the morbidly rich heiress billionaire who's cashing out of CBS and Paramount, is walking away with billions while the public walks away with nothing. What's happening to CBS is not just one network's moral collapse. It's a symptom of our national disease. The disease Reagan diagnosed as, quote, government is the problem, end quote, when he actually meant, quote, democracy is the problem, end quote. Since 1981, Republicans have systematically deregulated, defunded, and dismantled every guardrail of democratic capitalism that they could get their hands on. The result is an America where billionaires like Ellison can buy the truth, where the press kowtows to the criminal in chief, and where the public interest has no advocate left. We are reaping what Reagan sowed. In 1996, the Telecommunications Act, passed with bipartisan support but cheerled by Reaganites, blew open the floodgates of media consolidation. In the years that follow, Clear Channel, now iHeartMedia, gobbled up over 1,200 radio stations. Sinclair Broadcasting used loopholes to flood local news with right-wing propaganda. And now legacy TV networks are selling themselves to political oligarchs while laundering bribes to Trump through legal settlements and airtime giveaways. All this is happening in plain sight. It's not even subtle anymore. Trump brags about, quote, retribution, end quote, and CBS offers him a microphone. He lies about the election, and they hand him airtime. He threatens journalists, and their bosses fire them. And where are the regulators? The Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission under Biden have taken steps to revive antitrust enforcement, but Trump has ended all those efforts and put a bootlicker in charge of the FCC. And Congress? Half of them are on the take, funded by the very oligarchs who benefit from this media rot. According to OpenSecrets.org, media and internet companies spent over $600 million lobbying Congress in 2024 alone. What we're witnessing is the logical endpoint of a 44-year experiment in trickle-down libertarianism called the Reagan Revolution. The billionaires got their tax cuts, the corporations got their deregulation, the politicians got their payoffs, and the people got lies, propaganda, and impoverishment. It doesn't have to be this way. We could enforce antitrust laws. We could reinstate the fairness doctrine. We could limit media ownership and break up monopolies like Comcast and Sinclair. We could tax the billionaires who are using their wealth to warp our democracy and rebuild public interest journalism from the ground up. But first, we have to stop pretending this is normal. It's not normal to pay a criminal ex-president $16 million to go away and then invite him back on the air This sort of thing doesn't happen in any other developed country in the world. It's not normal to fire comedians and journalists for telling the truth. It's not normal for one politician to cow the nation's news organizations. And it's sure as hell not normal for the Fourth Estate to become a wholly owned subsidiary of the neo-fascist MAGA movement. This isn't just a CBS problem. It's not even just a media problem. It's a democracy problem. If Congress lets the Ellisons and Trumps and Redstones buy and sell the truth, it'll be years before we get it back, if ever.